Well, back again. There is already a late night in New York, and here we go. Yes, guys. So, my name is Anastasia Drunevskaya. I'm creative director at Cointelegraph, the biggest media outlet in the world, and chief executive officer at Cointelegraph Communications. And we are here to talk about the metaverse, trends of metaverse in the financial industry, and investment opportunities. So, long story short, should we discuss what the metaverse is? We've been talking more and more about the metaverse. Each business, many brands, use this word, trying to understand the metaverse and trying to find how monetize their business through the metaverse. And here we go, two sides. Our crypto blockchain world, we are well educated, we are faster, we are ready to adoption, we are ready for all of this. And the traditional financial community, is it hard for them to understand what the metaverse is, hard to understand trends, etc.? Or is the idea of a metaverse not so new after all? So maybe we expect some kind of hyper future where all of us will be chained by electrodes to a computer, or are the metaverse already integrated in our lives and we can do not understand their presence, and as it happens with the internet, and thanks to which, including these conferences, there is place to be. So we are here to broad experts to talk about trends, investments, etc., and the most importantly, to answer the question, what next? Well, let's meet with the speakers. Mahmoud Ali, so general partner at AZ Angels, on Yavin, managing partner at Cointelligence Fund, and Les Versay, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Wave Financial. It's a pleasure to meet you guys. And before we get into the discussion, please tell us a little about yourself so we can get as close to what you're doing in your business as possible. So please.
Well, I guess I'll start. So
yeah, of course, sure.
My name is Les Versay, and my former career was in entertainment and the music business for the most part. But in 2013, I got into cryptocurrencies. I became an advisor for Ripple. I invested in the Ethereum pre-sale, bought my first NFTs in 2017 and 18, and then formed a company called Wave Financial. Wave Financial is a regulated investment advisor. We have had about $1.5 billion. We probably have $4 after this week in AUM. And, really, we do three things. We have venture funds that are more traditional, except using crypto and NFTs as underlying assets, and blockchain. We do treasury management, and we create fund products.
Okay, Mahmoud.
Hi, everyone. I've been I started in the security world, so I was into attack and pen testing and vulnerability assessment and all that jazz for a long time. Had worked at Yahoo, Uber, Airbnb, and BitMEX. I was running security compliance and operation at BitMEX. I started the AZ Angels with my partner, where we focus on crypto and Web3. I got into crypto in 2013. Unlike Les, I was not as smart as him to understand Ethereum. For the longest time, I was Bitcoin maximalist. So, we focus, our AZ Angel focus on, as I said, crypto and Web3. We invest in infrastructure. We focus on infrastructure, gateway, among other things.
On Yavin.
So hi everyone, and thank you for the event organizers for inviting me to participate, and thank you for the moderator and my colleague panelists. So about me, briefly, I'm considered to be a serial entrepreneur. Started my first company before I turned 20. Since then, I started and developed a few companies in different industries. About 15 years ago, I started investing in startups as an angel investor. had 14 investments in total before crypto time. And I also became a lawyer. Almost 5 years ago, I established Cointelligence as a research company. We analyzed more than 1,100 blockchain and crypto companies before the fund was established. In 2019, I established Cointelligence Academy, providing education services for blockchain and cryptocurrencies, both online and offline. And in 2021, I established Cointelligence Fund as the founder and the managing partner. Cointelligence Fund is a fully regulated fund, probably one of the few in the industry which is fully regulated. And we completely focus our investments on the metaverse and more specifically blockchain-based games. And beside everything that I told you about myself, I'm also a gamer. They say that I was born with a keyboard in my hands, and I've been playing games since I can remember, and I'm still playing games until today. And now it's also a part of my work, so it can't get better than that.
So you're earning digital assets by playing games, right?
So unfortunately, the play-to-earn games are not there yet. And as I mentioned,
Well,
I'm a serious gamer. I'm waiting. Maybe one of our investments will enable me to play the next generation game.
Cool. So, well, nice to hear all of you. And let's go back to the discussion about the metaverse. Like, we have such a great field, metaverse, but who are all these metaverse users? Like progressive teenagers, entrepreneurs, gamers, or altogether? Like, who is more likely to survive in the market? Like, who are the current metaverse users, in your opinion? On Yavin.
So first, I'd like to start with the definition of the metaverse, because obviously it's different for different people. Some will say that any online presence or any online activity can be considered the metaverse. If you log into a website, if you use a social media platform, such as any of the big ones like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you're in the metaverse.
And we are in the metaverse, right?
Yes, and we're having a virtual event panel right now, and you can say that we are in the metaverse. Some will say that the metaverse has to be something more, I would say, deep, which means that unless you have an avatar, unless you have actually a representation of yourself online, and it has to be much more serious than just a social media profile, then that qualifies to be a metaverse. And some will say that it's the next generation and the next step that will include VR and AR. And unless you are combining the online presence with VR and AR, it doesn't consider to be a metaverse. If you ask me personally, I would go with the middle option. It has to have some kind of an avatar, and it's not enough just to be connected to a social media platform such as Facebook or Twitter. That doesn't count as a metaverse in my book. And obviously, the biggest metaverses out there that has been around for many, many years are the games, and that's the obvious answer to what is a metaverse until today. If you ask me, the future will be very bright for the metaverse, but I'll let the others speak now and maybe continue later on.
Okay, Les, what do you think? Are you agree?
Well, I mean, I agree with elements of it. I think, if we take a look at the history of my version of the metaverse, it's been built for a long time. And, when we take a look at engines like Unreal and Unity and a lot of the gaming engines that these guys are really familiar with, they've created an immersive environment. And I think what we see with this new generation is innovations that are being created across platforms. So if we take a look at the ethos of what they're thinking about, the psychology is that their definition of real life doesn't matter what the platform is. Real life is across every platform. And that could be immersive using an Oculus Quest, that can be a web-based immersion, or that can be through mobile. the thing that is also happening, in my opinion, is really these immersive experiences when we really talk about it, and that can be gaming, it can be, fitness, it can be, shooting, it can be just about anything that could exist in this world. And I think, when I truly think about it, I take a look at Bored Apes, that were born on a, web-based platform essentially, which was more Web 2 than Web 3 at the time. And then as it kind of emerges, now we have Animoca getting involved with ape coins and building out other lands. And then we see land sales, and you start to combine all of these different verticals. And that's what my definition is of it. And then you can take that across kind of different corporate verticals. So that's mine.
Thank you for your opinion. You were already so many topics touched. So Mahmoud, what do you think? Who are the current users of the metaverse?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree with Les and Yavin. To me, I have very strong opinion about what metaverse is, and I think it's two things. It's immersive. It has to be immersive than the current. So to me, this is not metaverse. It needs to be a fully immersive experience. And the other thing is, my assets need to be portable, where I have complete ownership of. To me, these are the two parts of the metaverse, like two distinct characteristics of the metaverse. To answer your question, who are the users? I think it's very hard to tell now, but I feel it's not like I have done like a comprehensive data driven exercise, but I don't think that the old school gamers or the traditional gamers have really transitioned to the metaverse. I feel most of the play to earn or blockchain gaming or metaverse folks are crypto native folks that are joining the metaverse revolution, and I think that's a bit alarming in a way. And until the old school traditional gamers join the metaverse, and I see it in my kids, I see it, I don't think we are there yet. So to answer your question, it's crypto native folks for the most part are the current metaverse users, I feel.
I think it's a combination, actually. I agree with you, by the way. In terms of, the ethos of Web3, I mean, what are we really talking about? We're talking about privacy, decentralization, and cryptocurrency. So your definition in my mind is exactly right when we see the emergence of what the metaverse is. The thing is, when you look at the corporate adoption on the other side, and you have companies like Microsoft doing an Activision or whatever it is, Blizzard acquisition, they're doing it exactly because they're going to build something in the metaverse. And when you talk about the traditional gaming companies, they're just trying to find their place in the world. But the truth is, they're not going to take the reputational risk of cryptocurrencies. So they're going to have to find their own consumers. While on the other side, the crypto natives that we're so used to, I actually think it's a young audience. It's Gen Z in the Discords and the Twitters, and every one of them is innovating whatever that next play to earn mechanism looks like. And without talking about play to earn, we need to talk about the guilds and what they're doing in emerging markets, because the play to earn is actually doing impact for good. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, everything is fine. Like the metaverse applications has expanded beyond entertainment to traditional sectors as well. And as you guys said, we already changing the way in which we shop and make payments altogether, and all the customers' behavior and regular patterns has been changed already. And when there are so many changes in the metaverse and in our lives, they have to be regulated somehow. Like, what do you think? Are regulators ready for the metaverse? Because you already mentioned like privacy settings, like deep fakes, issues of personal data collection, like how companies in general interact with their customers and employees. So are regulators ready for the metaverse? What do you think?
So I think absolutely not. And not only they're not ready for the metaverse, they're not even ready for what exists for a few years already, or even more. The regulators don't even understand decentralized finance yet. They don't even know how to deal with that. Don't even get me started on DAOs. They have no clue. And I'm talking about all of them without any exception. I didn't see even one regulator that addresses DAOs in a proper way until now. It's going to take a long time for them to start understanding and regulating it. So with regards to the metaverse, it's even more deep and more complicated. And I don't think we're going to see proper regulation, at least in the next 2 to 3 years. And I'm being very optimistic here, saying.
And then until this, we have a mess on the market, right?
Yes.
Like we're just trying to play in the metaverse and nobody really understands it. Or like, Mahmoud, what do you think about regulations?
Yeah, I mean, at AZ Angels, we've been very fortunate to be investors in Animoca brands and Yoga Labs a bit relatively early. And now, as Les mentioned, the whole, the metaverse that they are creating now, the outside land, and also like the ape coin out and the land release. So there is a lot of ambiguity around how to manage this from a legal perspective. And actually, within our fund, we've been discussing like how to manage our risk of that. Is that considered, like, would the land be considered security or not? So yeah, I agree with Yavin. This is a complete like a no man's land at this point.
It's interesting because I mean, it's almost like you said what I say all the time in terms of the speed of regulation. And if you throw in layer 2s and stable coins, then you even got more. There's an old saying that the SEC, when they don't regulate, it's their strongest form of regulation. So as a regulated entity that we have to do audits and have administration and, adhere to that, the thing I always look at is to what Mahmoud was just really touching on. And that's the fact that all of this is global. And we saw a lot of companies in the US, for instance, get into some issues. Well, what they do, they move to Singapore. They're not going to shut their businesses down necessarily in the same ways. The other point really is, you can argue that NFTs in the metaverse are collectibles, but a lot of this is securities. And, one of the things we do is from why we became regulated was so we could deal with securities, and take the risk away from issuers and do treasury management on tokens.
Because this is really important. That's
the other thing. So if we take a look at all of the massive gaming companies right now that exist in the metaverse, and we take a look at their tokens, the reason we did the business we did is we wanted to manage those tokens because we can do options and derivatives around them and generate yield. So regulation is something that's very much on our minds.
Mm-hmm. And you guys, we already mentioned a lot of times about like investments in the metaverse and investment opportunities. And we know for sure that there are many ways to invest in the metaverse. Like someone buys real estate, someone buys art and establishes virtual galleries, someone directly builds all these spaces for us. Do you invest in metaverse by yourself already? And what do you think is the most proper direction for investing in this area? Like, do you have something in mind, or maybe you already have an experience to share? Les?
Well, sadly, I have a lot. Personally, I think I have 900 NFTs.
Wow.
We launched a fund.
Are you trying to count these day by day? Like,
no, I'm not getting rid of them today.
898.
I'm the guy that doesn't want to sell anything ever, because every time I sell something, I finally talked to someone about picking for me, and he picked 4 of the worst things ever. So I'm not real good at letting things go. But, in terms of how exciting, and look, the fund that we had, we launched it in the end of November. And it's up like 155%, because it's not just the collectible aspect, it's the metaverse gaming infrastructure aspect and how those things work together. So the thing that's really interesting about the space that no one talks about too much is the collaborative efforts that come from different places. Let's talk about artifacts. I had a CryptoPunk. Artifacts, a separate company, has nothing to do with Larva Labs. Mint some virtual sneakers and some physical sneakers. And if you held on to them, you got some Clone X's. Well, we all know with Clone X's, the drip coins are coming next. And these are all these different things that happen simultaneously. And I could never imagine, Fox working with CBS, working with NBC. They hate each other, and they're competitive. And this is just a different world. And I think we don't talk enough about the collaboration that's happening.
On Yavin, do you have 900 NFTs in your company?
No, we're actually much more focused.
Still impressed,
Absolutely impressive. No, we're actually much more focused on investing in the projects themselves and the tokens of the project. And for me, the answer is very straightforward. We definitely believe that the biggest metaverse, the next biggest metaverses, will be the games. And just to add something and to respond to something that Muhammad said before, and I completely agree with him. It's very well known and obvious that the gamers, the traditional old school gamers, did not get into the play to earn concept yet. But it's so obvious to me because I can't even give you one example of one proper game that any of them would be interested in playing. And for me, it's so easy because I just look at myself. I can't even give you one example. And I did try about a dozen of them. And we have to remember, most projects just finished raising funds recently. They didn't even launch their alpha, beta, definitely not the final version or the first real version of the game after the beta. And I am completely bullish on what's going to happen. I think that as with everything with crypto, everything exploded and blew up, and everybody was saying
not today.
well, obviously not the last few days or the last week, but and by the way, we've seen the decline with most of the projects starting January already, and things started to the hype relaxed, and I think that we will see. I don't know if it's going to be towards the end of this year or during next year, but I am guessing that we're going to see another huge hype when a few games that are being developed right now, and obviously, again, I know a few of them because we invested in them, are going to be releasing their alpha version, and then it's going to be a completely different ball game. Beside what I said, I would like to add that the reason that I'm saying that the biggest metaverses are going to be games is because it already happened. And we have to remember that the metaverse is not something new. We already have a few metaverses. Some of the metaverses exist for more than a decade. There's even a few of them that exist for 20 years or so. So and it's all about gaming. I don't think that it's only going to be relevant for games, but I think that's gonna be the beginning.
But now we have an opportunities to take off the money from the game. Like we can not just earn digital assets, but we can like monetize them and make the real money, not just for the metaverse, but for our real offline life. Well, and there are a lot of types of play to earn games, like not just play to earn, like learn to earn, etc., etc. So like, but this is a different discussion. Mahmoud, my friend, do you have any investment advices for me, like in a secret? Forget about them, like in this room. Just give me an investment advice in the metaverse.
Don't tell anyone, but I think this investment advice is relevant to everything. We invest in founders mostly. Like we have been always obsessed with Warren Buffett, and we took his approach and applied it to everything. We applied it to big tech in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now we're applying it to the metaverse. And essentially, we look for founders that essentially we can predict where the market is going and resilient enough to push the status quo that they have in mind. So like we invested in Animoca because of Yatsu, we invested in FTX because of SBF, we invested in Yoga Labs because we think they're gonna be the next Activision of the future, and we completely believe in their team and their execution. That is honestly, that would be my biggest advice. So specifically when it comes to blockchain gaming, I think a common mistake that I see among like peer VCs is that they kind of buying into the hype. They are there are many engineers or folks who have always been in the crypto world, and now they are getting into gaming by building like blockchain games. Instead, our approach, and that's why we invested in a company, in a startup like Block Tackle that came up with a SkateX on Solana, and the founder Ben is is a Roblox advisor. He has 10 hits under his belt, 10 gaming hits under his belt, and has a significant track record in gaming, him and the other team. So this is sort of what we look for. So my advice to you, if you want to get into play to earn or blockchain gaming, is look for old school game developers or game builders who have strong interest in blockchain and want to bring in the benefit of decentralization and all the features and benefit that it can bring into gaming.
I will text you on Yavin, seems he's like from old gaming sector, so he understands.
You would be in good hands.
Yeah, and when people feel the need to buy something, it appears on the market, and we have the metaverse, and along with this, the need to advertise all these new things in new world also grows. How is marketing changing because of the metaverse? Because we already changed people behavior. We have fashion in the metaverse, etc. And so the marketing system has been exploded as well. So what do you think about the marketing in the metaverse, and what maybe future steps for the companies who decided to advertise inside the metaverse, their products, services, maybe your own projects? What is your opinion?
I think the beauty about all of this is the fact that, with Web3, the whole ethos is to not, have it driven by those types of advertisements. And, coming from a different kind of background, I think authentic actions create the best marketing in the world. The premise that you have to go buy visibility, I don't like that, and I don't really buy into it. I'll give you a good example. There was a league called the Big Three, owned by Ice Cube. Ice Cube's considered kind of old school, and it's a basketball league that's 3-on-3. And there's 12 teams, and you could buy one. Well, we bought one. Gary Vee bought one. Kevin Rose bought one, and Snoop Dogg bought one. Mm-hmm. And immediately we grabbed a Bored Ape because we wanted to be branded. Well, that became a news event, for what we spent on the team, and the fact that the rights have changed with something like a Bored Ape, where the consumer, us, can exploit those rights, and we don't have to go license them from the people at Yuga who created it. Now we have a basketball team that's branded as a Bored Ape that we can go and monetize. Well, that'll create marketing because it hasn't been done. And I think the innovations create marketings. One last point on the old school versus the new school. When I look at Web3 and the platform, we can go back to when an Odyssey launched, or Intellivision, or the first Ataris, and what those games looked like and what the ethos was. And we're seeing the same thing now. And we're seeing those titles come back, but what we haven't got to is licensing IP. And once we get into licensing IP, you're going to see old school gamers, new school gamers kind of come together, because the quality of the games will be that advanced with the play to earn mechanism. Right now, we're seeing a separation. The play to earn guys are doing what they do, and the gamers that don't care about cryptocurrency, that do the AAA stuff or play the AAA stuff or otherwise, they're doing what they do. And I think we're going to see a blend when IP hits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with Les, and I can tell you that some of the projects are considering to completely separate everything related to blockchain and play to earn, and allow two versions of the games. Let's say that you publish the game and use one of the console platforms, let's say Xbox or PlayStation. So over there, players that will play the game will have nothing to do with the play to earn or NFTs, and they will be playing the game as they play other games. And the players that would be interested in earning and so on are going to use the PC, because right now it's going to be mainly on PC and mobile, for example. One more thing that I wanted to address with regards to your question about advertising. So actually, one of the companies that I invested in 15 years ago was a marketing agency that later became an advertising agency. And I was working hands-on with some of the team members during the years. And I can tell you that I have no doubt about the following. What we are going to see is every respected brand out there will have to have presence in the metaverse. It's not even a matter of a question to me. It's exactly the same. And I remember the time when I was talking to potential clients and explaining to them why they have to have presence on the Google ad network or the Facebook ad network and the other big networks. And back then, when we were talking to potential clients and they were used to the traditional marketing, we had to explain to them why they have to be there. It's exactly the same with the metaverse. It's going to happen and be the same. If a brand will not exist in the metaverse, there's high chances that nobody will know it. I'm not talking about next year. Obviously, I'm talking about a few years from now, definitely 10 to 15 years from now. And I think that every brand has to start getting ready for that future.
I agree as well, by the way, Mahmoud.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much to add from Yavin, unless I would only stress the fact that going forward, brand cannot afford the old school lazy way of let's pay millions for advertising slots. Now they need to actually be thoughtful about organic engagement, how to engage with the players, with their customers, how to build native experiences, essentially. And yeah, that will be a game changer, and it will kill a lot of marketeer, and it will bring, like, will rise a lot of other new players in marketing. So it's exciting to see how this will play.
It kind of makes me laugh because, we always see just like a replication of what people have done for marketing in the past. And I was just thinking, as you were saying that, Crypto.com Stadium in Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium, FTX, whatever, Garden. And it's like, all they're doing is exactly the same thing, rebranding these institutional sports centers and sponsoring things. And I don't know, man, it's just so much more interesting when all of it just comes from the space itself.
Yeah, true. And I was thinking about the next question when Les started to talk about like old school, like how will the metaverse be incorporated into our current internet? Like this is a similar infrastructure question, but also addressed how society will adopt the metaverse. Like will internet companies have to install like a separate system to power the metaverse, or it will be like other natural way? What is in your mind? And unfortunately, Les is frozen for me. Like, could you see how he
Am I frozen?
No, not for me.
But for me, somehow, I don't know. Like, okay.
Asia, it sounds like it's your computer.
So to answer your question, I think that right now, obviously, a lot of the systems will not be enough because many people are using PCs or even mobile phones that are not going to be advanced enough to support the metaverse, at least not support the metaverse if we're talking about AR and VR. I think it's going to change, but at some point, it's going to be as simple as it is for everyone today to use the internet and visit websites. It's going to be exactly the same. If it's going to be your PC or your mobile device, you're just going to log in. As you log into a website, you're going to see everything. And in some cases, it's just going to connect to your smart glasses or a VR helmet, which is not going to continue to look like a very big and heavy helmet as it is today. And I tried a few of them, so I should know. And in my opinion, it's even going to go as far as we're going to have contact lenses that are going to be on us at all times of the day. And whenever we activate the device, it will just get connected and it's all going to be automatic. And
yeah, I guess Apple will release something like that in the near future. Like
some of the 500 Fortune companies already developed very advanced devices, and I think that in the next few years, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what's happening with the combination with the metaverse development.
Yeah, like the part of our lives. Mahmoud, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a dreamer, so take all I say with a grain of salt. But on one side, I actually think the future, for the most part, is already here. As Yavin mentioned, there is already contact lenses. There is like freaking hologram you can touch now. Like technology is here. There are suits that you can wear where you can hyper your senses. I think future will bring like back to the immersiveness of the metaverse. I think this maybe if we extend where we are now, maybe 10 years from now, I think most of the current experiences that we have, including like everything, including down to intimacy and all that, will be replicated in the metaverse. We'll see.
Les?
I kind of feel differently. I mean, it is here, but I just look at it a little bit differently. You know, when I look at Wall Street Bets, it was the gamification of banking. And we have these concepts that make no sense whatsoever. Coinbase, an exchange, you know, helping produce a Bored Apes movie. So what I really see is things like the gig economy emerging in the metaverse and it replacing the real life gig economy. Because if I'm a kid, do I want to drive an Uber or do I want to play a game and get paid 10 times as much? It's pretty simple. And then when we get into the deeper immersion, there's all sorts of things you can do. And it's already happening, you know, in metaverse gaming. I mean, you can do leases on NFTs and earn with them and the company gets their percentage. And, you know, that's why I always go back to this is a robust economy. That's the future. It's already happening. And as long as, you know, the bartering and the trade can continue, you know, it'll be something that could replace IRL, you know, gig economy.
Yeah, true. Like with all these technologies and new things, do you think, guys, can metaverse be dangerous somehow? Like in some points?
It's like the real world, you know, you got wars and crime and everything else. And I mean, I actually think the metaverse might be a little bit safer because you're not going to get the physical altercations.
Yet.
Yeah.
We still do not know how holograms will behave themselves in the near future. Maybe they will be dangerous. Like danger. Huh?
No, sorry to cut you off, Anastasia. Please continue.
No, like and actually, my last question is like, well, in the end, I'm always trying to realize like what will be new steps in recent future for you guys in the metaverse. Like, could you please share with us like some plans? You already shared a bit, but in a nutshell, like what do you have in mind in the near future with your project in the metaverse?
So I'd like to also answer the previous question and say that, yes, I definitely think that crime is going to be much less in the metaverse. But I have to tell you that I am worried about two specific things. One is we have to remember that most metaverses will allow complete anonymity. And as soon as people are anonymous, they allow themselves to do things that they do not allow themselves to do in the real world. We already see it with crypto scams and the rug pulls in crypto. And a lot of the times it's just anonymous teams, and that's why they allow themselves to do it. The second thing is identity theft. And I think it's going to take a pretty long time to really have secured identities, especially the ones that are going to be used in the metaverse. And I think that there will be a period of time similar to when we saw the credit cards being launched and they were new to the world. So credit card theft was outrageous compared to what's happening today, which is also a problem, but not as bad as it used to be in the first few years. And beside that, I think that when people will own so much in the different metaverses and the identity will be stolen, it's not going to be similar to the traditional ways that we have today with banking and all the other financial instruments and so on, because it will be the metaverse, it will be based on blockchain, it will be saved in our wallets, and it will be our responsibility. So I do suspect that we're going to see many issues with that. And now with regards to the question that you asked, the last question that you asked, so for me, it's very straightforward. I've been already living in the metaverse for at least a few hours a week, and in some days, even a few hours a day. So for me, it's very straightforward. And I'm going to continue to be in the metaverse, in the different metaverses. And hopefully they will improve in the next few years. And maybe at some point, I'll spend most of my time in the metaverse. Who knows?
Offline as in you luxury, no? Well, what about you guys?
I guess for me, just to add to Yavin answer about like the crime on the metaverse, I think it will actually be higher than like internet has proven that people are just meaner online than in real life. So I think with immersiveness, it will be like them being mean will just explode and the crime will just explode. And it will just, as Yavin mentioned, like the anonymity, it's a lot just easier to hide yourself, and that makes people meaner and more evil. What do we invest? Like, what are the themes that we invest in? We typically like what we are very laser focused on infrastructure. So whatever is enabling metaverse to expand. So for example, we look at NFT as a service. So we look for companies that are enabling big enterprises to mint their own NFTs. We look for maybe companies or startups that abstract the chains. So for example, you can write your contract one time and you can deploy it onto several chains, for example. And also because my bread and butter, I come from the security world, so I'm very focused on looking for security companies focusing on metaverse and Web3 specific risk. Like, it's just mind blowing that there is not much focus by security native companies tackling security issues in the metaverse and future security issues in the metaverse and Web3.
Well, back to regulations. Anyway, so Les, what is your plan?
I think that's exactly it, though. I mean, that's what we're focusing on 100% right now, as we take a look at the gaming companies and we look at what they're creating, whether it's an NFT or the tokens that are coming with the projects that are going to be distributed through these worlds. And we focus on how we can help generate yield on those products or create ecosystem funds to invest in those specific chains, in those specific gaming metaverses, and help build out the economy. So that's exactly what we're focusing on. That's the most important thing across the board, because it's not just utility, there is security components to it.
It's so cool that you guys trying to bring the value for the whole industry, not just for your own company. And this is really important for the market, because when we educate the market and we can play more safety, more opportunities, more everything, like for everyone. And thank you all for that. And I guess that's all from my side. And it was a pleasure to spend Friday night with you guys. Like, you're so awesome and amazing, and I will be watch your projects in the future and send them to Cointelegraph. We will promote them as well. So thank you and have a lovely weekend, and thank you for organizers as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.